well, I don't know if this fits, but the reason I had for getting better at photography is because I have all these creatures that I had to identify, and I had to see see stripes under wings, and so I had to get better. Otherwise, I'd never be able to identify some of these warblers and things that all look alike, especially in the fall. So, I mean, I had to get better photos to be able to identify these things, and then I discovered I could get better photos. I was like, hey, wait a minute. I can even get better. So it was a process from there, and that was my reason. I just needed to identify this stuff.
Just jump there. Yeah, space out.
They're tired of hearing from me.
Let me just set Jared's piece up. Inspiration, I think, is one thing that I'm curious about. I'm also curious about what motivates you personally to keep trying the experimentation that you do. Because Jared's work, those of you who don't know, he does really, really incredible stuff, really just pushing the envelope stuff. I won't try to describe it, but just accept the fact that he's in another class from everybody else in this room because of what he's doing. And what motivates you personally to be that person?
Well, right now, currently, I'm trying to find it. I spent a lot of time last year doing my art show project that some of you saw with the faces and stuff. And if you want to see it, it's online on the Facebook page. There's 73 faces. I'm trying to get to 100 by the end of the year. But it's taken a lot out of me to do that. I don't know, I just enjoy learning and manipulating things. I see something, how do you do that? So I try to figure it out. So, okay, now this is how you do it. So what can I do that says what I want to say with this? And I don't know, it's just fun for me. I'm trying to capture that fun again, which I've lost because I've been so busy doing other things with work and with the art show that I did. Just be careful. Not to overdo it, you know. So it started off as a hobby and became a passion, and I'm trying to keep that passion going.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
What was the question?
What inspiration? Where do you get your inspiration?
Well, initially, I got it from my best friend making fun of my photographs of cutting people's heads off. So finally, just ticked me off and went to the library and got a book. I'm going to find out. But now I know why I cut people's heads off with a point-and-shoot camera. And now I still cut their heads off, but I do it on purpose. But the day-to-day inspiration for me is maybe capturing that moment, freezing that moment, putting it in discs. But to go back to what I said originally, I've gotten to the point where I don't take photographs as much, probably because I'm involved in other things. I don't see photographs and I don't have anything to say. So maybe it's the photographic version of that old thing. You don't have anything. Keep your mouth closed. It's better for them to think you're an idiot than open your mouth and you know for sure. Yeah. So, but there's a magic thing. I think everybody here has that one. I did a long inspiration. At one point, I decided I was going to do a one-year project, take a photograph a day and make a log of it. But the reason why wasn't photographs. I had read some photographer talk about every photograph you ever take, you remember it. Now it's not so much like that with digital because we don't. But in the film days, obviously it was much different. And I realized that I can look at negatives and slides. Every photograph, I remember something about it. And by taking a photograph every day was my way of wanting to remember every day of my life. Because we all But 365 days a year, you don't know what you were doing last Thursday, or unless something comes up. But I want to make myself remember. And so that's why I did that.
Tommy, you have a question?
Well, I was going to ask you, Steve, I didn't really understand what you were saying when you were towards the end, when you were talking about what is it you're trying to say. You said second thing, something about focusing in or looking at the whole picture.
Oh, that's just a piece of technical advice that, compositional advice, that you see the entire frame. When you look through your viewfinder, that you don't just look at the center of it, you look in all four corners. It's a real simple thing. I think pretty much everybody has that by now. But those are the two things. My philosophy of teaching how to be a better photographer is know what you want to say and make a photograph that fulfills that intent.
And when you look into the little viewfinder, it's square, just get your eye, go like that. Make sure,
Don't look through it.
look around. Because, before you press the button, well, in my opinion anyway, everything has to be intentional. When you take a picture and you bring it up, well, nowadays, you bring it up on a computer, there's a piece of trash there, or there's something there, that you didn't want in the picture. It's your fault that it's in the picture because you did not look the composition. And anything that's in the picture is because you decided that was in the picture. You can't say, oh, man, I wish I had done it different. You looked at the frame and you decided that thing that you didn't want in the picture was going to be in the picture. It's your decision.
I'd like to make a comment about intent, since that's been kind of my sermon here. And I've had the experience, when we first take a photograph, and you look at it, and you go, why did I do that? Whatever. I found so often sometimes, that photograph isn't a bad photograph, but it doesn't address your intent. It doesn't reflect what you had in your mind, so you discount it. And nowadays we delete it or whatever. I've found on a few occasions that once enough time has passed and I've forgotten what I was trying to say with that photograph and go back and look at it at some point, I go, oh, it's a good photograph. Like actually I have one that was done again on film that as soon as I looked at it, even the people at the photo lab I was using at that time, they looked at it and said, yeah, why'd you do that? Years later, and I'll look at that photograph, and that's the most autobiographical photograph I've ever taken. But at the time, it was embarrassing. But because I had something in mind, I had something I wanted to say, and that photograph was saying something else. It wasn't a bad photograph. It just didn't match what I was trying to, my intent at the moment.
I would really like to see that.
I'd be embarrassed, shouldn't it?
Come on.
Lay my soul bare to you. I can't do that.
How many of you read a magazine from back to front?
I'm just like,
1 out of 5, that's 20%.
I proofread like that.
I find a lot of the artists, the more they get into the artist side of the brain, they start doing it.
Or how many start the newspaper with the comics page?
What's the newspaper?
I've forgotten about that.
And we're sitting here talking about this, and the genius is sitting right over here. And this is the guy right here. He's the JD. So, does everyone know John David?
John David Mercer, he spoke at our club, about 6 months ago? Yeah.
So, I'm intimidated to even talk in front of
He's
him.
sitting so
about
close.
this. He's the guy.
Lou, let's do a little technical talk, without going too high, all right? I mean, without going into too much detail, what kind of software do you use, and do you still do film, by the way? But what kind of software do you use nowadays to do your production, your
very simple stuff. Burning Dodge and some curves and maybe, I'm guilty of that whole thing too. Get that thing out of there, so clone snap, that kind of stuff.
Because you made a decision.
I made a decision.
Yeah.
You said you still are using film occasionally?
Oh, yeah. My old rangefinder, I've got my Hasselblad in there. So, yeah. And I think, for me anyway, film is a physical thing. And I have a connection with that physical thing, much more than I do digital. I shoot digital for the painting jobs, but for my own stuff, I shoot film. You know, I put a lot of it back into the digital world by scanning it, but it's just the whole idea of having that physical thing in my hand to say, you know, this is mine, I created it, I'm going to bang it and, you know, keep it forever.